I want to about the idea of stress and the perception around it too. Because like, I guess with you guys, like when I talk about stress, when I'm saying this over and over again, what are your perceptions about stress and how it impacts your body?
You mean if this is what I did?
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Makes us hold tension.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm gonna challenge you though and try and tell you here, stress is actually neutral, right? So stress should be a neutral thing, but then it depends on the state of our body, our perception of whatever that stressor is, that then can make it so it makes us like feel like we're about to keel over or need to rest or just feel really tight and tense and overwhelmed.
Or I growl at people.
Yeah, sure. Makes you growl, makes you feel like you need to like respond in ways that maybe are, yeah. So, or maybe it could stimulate growth and change actually. Exercise. Exercise is a stressor on our body, right? Like when we are strengthening a muscle, we're literally breaking the muscle apart and it's going in and healing. That's a stressor on our body, but it's positive, right? Then we're stronger because that's the way that we're looking at it, right? But it also depends on the state of our body. And that's the big part that I want to talk about today. The fancy word for it is allostasis, right? So what that means is the ability to have stability through change. So the change being the stressor, right? Even just going back to the exercise example, the stressor being like trying to build strength in a muscle or a joint, getting more mobility into that joint. And having stability through that change. So then you're actually growing, you're bringing your nervous system, your body to a different level than it was before. But with that example, so we think of exercise, good stressor, right? Sometimes that could actually be a bad stressor if our body is not in balance. I think we probably all know that person or have seen that person, a friend, family member who is maybe doing a bunch of good things, but just not seeing the results, still feeling really tired and fatigued, and they're trying to move and exercise, and maybe they're a bit in go, but like doing all the right things, but still feeling overwhelmed, stress, and maybe like other symptoms in their body. So their system is not in a place where they can actually take that exercise, integrate it into the positive thing that it should be. And that was kind of a big statement. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
First, like,
Saying, I still think the exercise would have some benefits.
sure, certainly. And because it's not necessarily black and white. And exercise is one, because we're going to go into like how to get your body into balance so you can fully kind of take advantage of what should be coming from whatever the stressor is. But does what, yeah, ask questions for this now. Yeah.
It didn't really become evident to me, both as a teacher, but like as a human, that it was like somewhere in my 40s, I think. And the part, what I'm trying to describe is like the concept of reciprocation, like the get what you give part. Like I always understood the give, always understood like aspects of it.
Yeah.
But if you have health practices and you're going through healthy emotions, if you can't receive the benefits of what they are,
yeah,
then there's just going to be like all the business about it.
Exactly. And that reception happens in recovery, right? So and recovery is more, I'm thinking about it in kind of a big term as opposed to maybe the recovery being like, oh, well, I do my exercise on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and my recovery day is Thursday and Tuesday and Thursday. Like, so I'm going to dive more into each of these kind of concepts. So there's the concept of what state is our body in? Like, how can we, like, what are we in a state where we can integrate things in a positive way, or are we in overload? Right? So just kind of not only in our minds, but just our whole actual system is an overload. So it's a challenge to actually integrate stress, right? And to deal with the stress, or whether it's good or bad, right? And then the concept of recovery, because recovery is where we actually can take whatever it is that we're doing and feel good from it and bounce back from the stressors. You know what I mean? So let me just see where I am here.
Yeah.
So, because then to kind of like give a counter to the exercise example as a good stressor, even like on the opposite end of the spectrum, a bad stressor, like being too busy at work is an example, right? Generally, we can all maybe think of that and be like, that's not a good thing, right? Like this is overwhelming and it's burning me out. I'm not having a good time. This is a bad stressor. Depending on your level of like overload, that's true. Like if you're overloaded, then it is just going to be a bad stressor and it's going to be hard on our bodies. And chronic stress is what kind of we all know leads to inflammation, disease, all of that. But if we are able to kind of do things to put ourselves into this allostasis, that balance, that area in our nervous system where we can take on the stress of being too busy at work, we will actually be able to look at it and take something positive from it. So the idea of being able to see a stress as neutral is a bit of psychology too, right? So is this you know, and the psychology part of it, we can't really do when we're in overload. Like first we need to do things to get our system into balance, which is a big part of what we're going to talk about next. But then that psychology part comes in of like, okay, is it happening to me? Is all this like just tumbling on me and it's too busy at work and like this is happening to me? Or are you able to change that to, oh, this is happening for me, right? Like that I can take something from this. I can take a message, either like learning something from what's actually happening or learning how to actually change my environment, you know, the ability to see that as a positive thing, even though it's the same exact thing, right? So you're too busy at work and it's either just overwhelming and bad, or you're able to see, okay, now that the overwhelm is gone, now I can see, all right, this is actually okay, right? I'm learning something from this, or I'm gaining something from this, or growing from this, or, oh, hey, I actually have the tools or can learn the tools to change this, right? So that's kind of the other end of the spectrum. So it's really just trying to prove the point of stress is neutral. It's how we're able to take on the stress, internalize the stress, and then think about the stress. Do you guys have any like thoughts or comments or questions on any of that?
I think it's interesting. I never thought of it as good and bad. When you first mentioned about exercise being a stressor, I was like, well, why do I feel so good afterwards? I always feel good.
Yeah.
After.
Yeah.
But now, the interesting thing about and that's even when I get on the treadmill. Just brown nosing the teacher. But the concept of bad stress, like as in work stress.
Yeah.
I mean, I often did the problem solving, but didn't see it in the way you just put it.
Mhm.
Like I looked for a way to decrease the stress. Okay, this is making me crazy. What can I do?
Yeah.
But I didn't think of it the way you presented it. And that was sort of like,
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad. Yeah. And that's
The idea that it's.
exactly.
And then,
Yeah.
yes. You can basically go, okay, yeah, like which way? Is this going to be?
Like integrated into the system. Yeah. And that's why I was probably like a challenger and like, exercise is bad. I love exercise. I feel good when I exercise. I am not saying that exercise is bad. I'm just saying it is actually a stress on the system. But generally, especially if you're trying to do other things in addition to the exercise to keep your body in balance, then you're getting that benefit and you're feeling good and stimulating those parts of your nervous system that we do need to actually fire up, so we have that ability to continue to create that good response to stress. So yeah, that's good stuff. All right, so talks about allostasis. So allostasis is the big term, and I'm probably gonna accidentally keep using it. I try to not use the like scientific terms too much because it's just kind of unnecessary sometimes, but that one, like the only other way to put it is just the process of being able to be stable through change. So it's just a little faster if I use that term, but if you guys need clarification on it, then just let me know. But so that essentially is being able to bounce back from stress. So that was the kind of the big topic of today, bouncing back from stress. And honestly, this was a great time of year to have this talk. I didn't even think about that when we were like planning this out, but holidays, end of year, that's like a time when a lot of us start to feel overwhelmed by stress because there's just a lot going on. So it makes sense. We're getting past that point of being balanced and our body being able to just feel like it can handle it and grow from that. The way that we get to that is two things. So one, we need that second step, which is the ability to look at a stress in a different light. So what is happening for me as opposed to me. But then before that step, it's stimulation of what's called your peripheral nervous system. So that's the like fancier term for, have you guys ever heard of like fight or flight, rest and digest, those terms? So those are the two different parts of the automatic part of our nervous system. So there's different parts of all the nerves and everything going on in our brain and nerves and everything. The automatic is divided into fight or flight, which is our stress response. So that's when we need to make a quick decision, run, fight, freeze, like all of those things are in that part of our nervous system, which is important to have, by the way. I think it's very easy to think about that as a bad thing, but we want that to happen for survival, right? We just don't want to be hanging out there. The other part, that rest and digest, is where we get the balance between those two. Stimulation of that part of our nervous system is what allows us to have balance in that automatic response area, where then we can get, like, this is happening, I think of the brain as kind of the bottom and the top. So this is all happening in the bottom of the brain. We don't think about it. It's just happening automatically. And once we bring balance into that part of our system, we can get into the top part of our brain. This is the logic part. This is what makes us human. This is where we can take a step back and think, okay, now I can think about a different way to view what's happening right now and make a decision to do something different than I had before. So that stimulation of the peripheral nervous system, that rest and digest, is the key, right? So vagus nerve is a big part of how to do that. So I wrote or made this worksheet. So this is a bunch of different ways, and these are not the only ways. Oh, but these are 10 easy ways. And I'll give a PDF copy of this worksheet to Leslie, so you guys can see this as well. But so these are 10 just ways that can stimulate that vagus nerve.
Oh, Kristen's there.
Yep.
Okay.
So the big thing here is a lot of it is breath related, slow related, or just like stimulation of things kind of in our neck, right? So that's actually another thing, I don't have it on here, but that's actually one of the reasons why chiropractic care also stimulates that parasympathetic, that rest and digest, because these nerves are coming out of the top of our neck and the base of our spine, right? So whether it's adjustments or even movement or massage into those areas, that's one way to do it. Or it's all of these, and you'll notice like these are very different things. Like if you take a minute to look, like some of it is humming, some of it is jumping jacks while holding your breath, gargling. I love the gargling one because you can do that so easily, just like while you're brushing your teeth. We all brush our teeth, right? We've got that as a great habit. So just whether it's water or mouthwash, you might be surprised. Actually, all of you go home tonight and gargle and see how long you can do it. Like, is it easy to just do it for 30 seconds or a minute? Or are you kind of feeling like you're not like getting stuck after maybe even 5 seconds or so, right? So that's something that's really, really good for your nervous system. It's stimulating your calm state of your nervous system. It's helping to balance out the stress responses that we get from stimulation from lights, right? Like fake lights. Just busyness, news, all of that is stimulating that fight or flight part. So then these things can come in and balance it. So these are awesome ways to see like, okay, I don't need to do all 10 in a day. And there are other ways to stimulate, like singing. Like this is a very creative group, I feel. So like dancing, singing, like all of those things are also ways to stimulate the vagus nerve. And integrating some of this throughout your day, every day, is a way to make it so rather than when you are feeling overwhelmed, you can tell that you're out of balance, needing to go and do some of these things, which is awesome. That's an awesome habit to get into. But if you're also doing it when you're just kind of feeling normal, feeling good, then you're bringing yourself into a state where it's even easier to stay balanced through the ups and downs. that make sense? Another one that I really, really like is, and it's not printed on here, it's called the physiological breath. And this is a great one for if you are just like in a moment where you're like, I need to reset, calm down. So you do 2 quick inhales and then a slow exhale. So do it with me now. So and you'll notice like you kind of just feel a little weighed down, like in a good way. Do you like, how do you feel after just a couple breaths? Like for me, I feel almost as if there's a like a heaviness in a good way in my face. Like, you know what I mean? But it just kind of like almost like grounds me down. And that's just an easy, quick thing that you can do just as a way to balance your nervous system, put yourself more into this allostatic place where you can then be ready to shift your mindset if necessary and be back into balance. So
And what's that called?
the physiological breath. And I actually, it's in my, do you guys have pens? Because I did bring pens. Because here, I've got, okay. Yeah, we'll let you guys write that one down. Because then also that'll be nice because you write it down, then you'll remember it better too. Yeah. But so in terms of like actions, what I would suggest is thinking about the apply. So doing these things as step 2, right? The first step is actually just being in practice of noticing things in your body that might let you know, oh, my system is actually getting into overload. Because where are we all sitting? Because everybody's a little bit different in terms of, I know exactly when I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, or maybe some people don't know until they're kind of in more of an anxious state and freaking out and stuff like that. Like do
Degrees of overwhelm those.
fair enough.
You know, like it has degrees. If I am really, I mean, if I'm at the like high end, if I know that if any subject that I have like deep feelings about, I'm gonna cry, like I'm gonna cry everywhere, evenly with everybody. I'm gonna watch a movie with my kids and it's gonna be ridiculous. I mean, like, but it's like just expressive, like that's like I've been up for so long that I don't have other ways to get it out. That's just like
your emoting line is here and you're right there.
Yeah, totally. The low levels of it are
there you go. That's centered. Good, very nice. Right now,
where I start to pull away from people.
Good. And
Like for me to be overwhelmed is like I need alone time. I withdraw a lot more quickly. More like I did when I was younger. Like when I was like a teen, I remember I was like, yeah, I'm out. You know.
Yeah.
I just need a book.
So think below.
You all are crazy. I need a book.
Yeah.
So degrees.
That makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Towards the top of the tower there.
Does anyone else want to share? Or?
Well, I guess it could shoot up into a panic, frenetic.
Yeah. So you're just feeling in that panic, and that's when it's hard to like step into that zone of I can calm down, right? Because you're not there, right? We're in that overload, and it's really, really challenging to step out of that once we're there. So the first step that I think is a really, really helpful thing to do is to even start seeing if you can just notice other signs from the body that usually happen actually before those moments. So before you're feeling panicked, before you're feeling like you have to withdraw, or you're crying when you normally wouldn't be crying, like that sort of thing. And they're simple things, right? They're just little signs from our body. Pulse is an easy one. I don't know if anybody has wearables, but you can check your own pulse even if you don't have a wearable device. If you just put your fingers as opposed to thumb. Do you guys know how to check your pulse? Am I telling you things how you already know how to do? But yeah, so fingers right on just below your thumb, so the wrist part of your thumb there, and then you can feel your pulse. And if you just look at the clock, take 15 seconds, see how many pulse beats you have, multiply it by 4, and then that's your pulse. If your pulse, like your resting pulse, so not after an exercise class, but just if you're just sitting, standing, resting, if it's over about 65, that actually does mean that you're in some state of stress. So that can be something that you're just maybe even monitoring throughout the day. You just finished a meeting, you just finished that, you can just check in, see like, how am I doing? Do I need to do something to help calm my nervous system, or am I at my normal resting rate? Another one that's super easy is, are my extremities cold? Are my hands cold? Are my feet cold? Right? That one.
Constant stress.
Yeah.
Bad.
So that response is that fight or flight response. When we need to run, or if we need to protect ourselves, blood goes to the organs, right? So then our hands are cold, our feet are cold, because that's not a priority for our body's survival at that time. So that's a really quick one that you can be like, how am I doing? Like, obviously, if we just came outside right now, our hands are going to be cold. But if we're just inside, and if we've been inside for another time, the rest of our body has warmed up, but our hands are still cold or our feet are cold, our body is actually under a state of stress. Even if mentally we're like, fine, right? So that we can just notice those cues from our body. Another one, breath rate. So this is one that it's sometimes hard to measure yourself, because if you're counting it yourself, you know, you're watching out, right? So you're trying to slow that breath rate down. So sometimes if with a wearable, it's going to be most reliable. But even just tuning in and the act of trying to see, hey, how many breaths am I breathing in a minute? That's, even if it's not quite accurate because you've slowed down your breaths because you're paying attention, that's helpful enough, right? Because you're actively trying to slow down your breath. Because resting breath rate wise, ideally it's actually 6 to 8 breaths in a minute. So it's nice and slow. And it's really like, even just in my patients that I see in the office, really common for people to have more like a 16 to 20 breaths a minute. And technically, they're not going to be told by their doctor that that's bad, right? So that's in the normal range. But physiologically, we know that's actually means your body's in a stressful state. So I list these, and heart rate variability. Has anyone ever heard of that one? If you have a wearable device, you might have. So that's the way that we're measuring, like basically how our heart rate is adapting beat to beat, because it's not actually consistent. There is a variability, and there should be, because I'm moving my steps. My body is constantly responding my beat of my heart to what I'm doing and what's going on in my body. We want a high heart rate variability. There's not really an easy way to measure heart rate variability without a wearable device. So you can use one of these other ways to measure where you're at, and that gives you a good baseline of before I'm at this threshold of I am really just struggling right now. And that's a nice thing to have, because then you can also look at it later down the line after you've been having some consistent time of doing these things that are good, stimulating your vagus nerve, doing breath work, getting adjusted, like whatever you're choosing to bring that balance into your nervous system. Then you can go to those same times. You just finished the meeting, you just got back from a family event, and you can check in on your pulse or your breathing rate or how your hands and feet are doing, and see if that's improving. You know, your heart rate variability is improving. That's your ability to bounce back from stress. Cool, right? Yeah. Do you guys have any questions about any of that?
Yes, my hands are cold before I eat.
Oh,
And then as soon as I start eating, I mean, when
Yeah.
I'm hungry, then it's a huge change.
so
And-
that's an interesting thing. Yeah, go on.
And in general, I guess I'd say I'm cold, and then after, especially in the winter,
Yeah.
it's an almost immediate. It's just that I need the food.
The food thing is a very interesting thing, because I mean, even pay attention to those names. It's fight or flight, rest and digest, right? So the parasympathetics, that more calm state of our nervous system, means that is where we digest food. If we're in a very stressed out state, our body is not worried about digesting food and breaking things down. So then we're cold, right? And you might be stressed, or there might be a stress in your nervous system because you're overly hungry or something. But then now you're eating, so your body has gone into parasympathetics, that rest and digest. So it's literally now bringing blood back through your whole system. So that's really cool to notice that. Yeah.
Is there like a correlation between if you are habitually in a fight or flight stage and you are eating food, can you not intake the nutrition from the food?
Yeah, so there's certainly a correlation. I actually have 2 points to make on that. So I'll start with what I think will be the better answer to your question. Think about
Bring that right leg up.
IBS,
Yeah.
right? That is highly related to stress.
Yeah.
So
Straighten your bottom leg up
folks
on
who
the-
have trouble with digestion, it tends to be highly related to your body being in an overload and a negative stress response. And therefore, you actually, your nervous system is not able to do, like, to get into parasympathetics fully. Your enteric nervous system is actually your gut, and that's related to your calm, rest and digest part of your nervous system. So if we're
Good.
highly stuck in fight or flight and not able to have that balance, that allostasis to then move fluidly between, like, oh, I'm responding to a stress. Oh, now I'm actually resting and recovering and digesting. Then yeah, we can't break down the foods as appropriately as we're supposed to. We're not getting the nutrients adequately. So then people have varying degrees of distress from that. But those go hand in hand. And then the
That's
other,
my light bulb. That's like my entire family history.
This is why I'm here, actually. That's why I wanted to
Okay.
talk on the Vegas.
Like
Yeah.
my aunts and uncles and my father's like hereditary patterns.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
yeah. So no, those go hand in hand. And so that's why, like, I have a lot of patients who we do talk about gut health with. Because through chiropractic, through doing stuff like this, and then through another technique that I do called neuro-emotional technique that helps resolve kind of those automatic stress patterns, then that, plus sometimes having to look at the actual nutrition, right?
Of course, yeah.
And potentially other things that are impacting the stress can start to heal the gut. So it,
So you just can't drink a kombucha and you're like, fine.
no, no, that's not how it works. If only it were so simple.
Yeah.
But your point brought up another interesting note that is really cool, even connected to yours. So you're saying when you're hungry, you have cold hands, and then you eat and you feel better. Your body is always trying to get you into a better place, right? So think about stress eating, right? So when we're stressed, we eat because our body is like, would you just get into rest and digest, please?
Yeah.
So it is trying to make you eat. It's trying to get you into parasympathetics, that rest and digest state. And so it's saying, like, eat, then you'll feel better. And then of course, usually it's more complicated than that. So that moment of eating and digesting and probably not appropriately digesting doesn't fix the problem. So then it's this extra cycle and burden to undo. But I just, when I learned that, I just thought it was so cool that it's like, oh, stress eating makes sense. Like, it's just our body trying to help itself,
It's a natural.
but it's just a short-term picture of things as opposed to the big picture, which would be getting ourselves in balance so that we can appropriately eat and fuel ourselves.
It's very empowering for people, I think.
Mhm.
Actually,
Yeah.
to be like, this is a normal, it's fun.
Yes.
But you have to have healthy boundaries.
Yeah, no, I love telling patients that because it can be all that, going back to the psychology of it, people beat themselves up about stress eating and not being able to break that habit. And I think that understanding of, oh, this is why that's coming, this is why this is happening, can be really helpful.
Well, what I thought was really helpful for me is that I'll say to myself, I have a healthy diet. Why am I struggling so much with my digestion? What is it? Should I not eat this? Should I not eat that? And
Yeah.
after years of looking at all those things and not being able to find the trigger,
Right.
you know, I kind of missed the boat there.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta take that step back, but like your journey is super common. You're trying to find this, you're eliminating things, you're trying new ways of eating, you're doing a bunch of things. But if we're missing the piece of actually getting our body into balance so that your nervous system can do what it needs to do and break that food down, then you're gonna have that struggle still.
Does it mean I've waited too long if I'm so hungry that?
Probably.
Yeah, maybe a little dizzy too sometimes.
Definitely say, yeah, so if you're getting signs from your body, because the cold hands, that's a fight or flight response, right? To eat, we shouldn't be bringing ourselves into that extreme of a response every time. We're being dizzy, right? That tells me, like, hey, your body needs nutrients and it is screaming at you for some nutrients.
Yeah.
So maybe then even for that, you could even try to see, hey, what other cues might my body be telling me that I'm hungry before those things
You
happen?
maybe just have to snack between. I mean, this is just.
Yeah.
You need a
That's-
emergency bag of chips and a Hershey bar.
I know,
And a Hershey bar.
Yeah, yeah, emergency.
Yeah,
We
but
have emergency food in all places.
it might be
I have to.
though, right? Because technically we should, like, we're learning how to be cued into our body. As a baby, we're cued in, right? We cry when we're hungry and we get food. But it's almost an unlearning process of being tuned into our body as we grow up. So then we need to relearn, like, how do I recognize the cue for being thirsty before I feel parched? How do I recognize the cue for needing food before my stomach is grumbling and I have a headache? You know, it's a practice to tune back into our body. But doing these things, like stimulating our peripheral nervous system, this rest and digest, that makes all of that a lot easier, right? So that's, I would honestly say, like, have that be step one, right? Pick one of these things and make it easy. Something like, there's 10 things here, there's other things that you can do too. Like I said, pick something small and then just slowly try and stimulate it into your day and make it easy. Make it not something that feels like a burden, because that's that eustress, right? Like, you can, adding good things into your routine for some people is a stressor, like a negative stressor, right? They're trying to do so much or they feel burdened by needing to exercise. Like, if they're not on an exercise routine, I don't know if any of you guys felt like that before you started coming here regularly, but it can be a burden to start exercising and feel like such a huge stressor because it's not simple yet. Now it is, and you feel the results and you feel how good you feel when you exercise. So it's normal. It's a good thing, and you feel the results and you know the results. But so for changing anything for your health, I always suggest make it work for you. So it's not necessarily going to be the same for each of you, but just look at that sheet or ask me more questions about what might make sense for you specifically, and then see how you can make it a part of your routine and feel comfortable and good. Because it's not helpful to overwhelm yourself to try and not be overwhelmed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you gotta find that balance there.
It's called baby steps, Bob.
Yes, exactly. I'm all about baby steps. But yeah, so because that first step, noticing the things in our body, whether it's actually checking in and tuning into pulse rate, breath rate, your extremities, things like that. Or maybe it's something different. It's different, noticing different cues that maybe you're not feeling well, that you're hungry, that you're thirsty, that you're having an emotion, or anything like that. Just noticing. That's the first step. And then your body will start to open the door to make it easier to then have you feel less overwhelmed to start doing things that are good for that balance, right? Stimulating your peripheral nervous system, that calming part of your nervous system. And then as that gets easier, your body's becoming more in balance. You'll be surprised how much easier it is to then look at whatever the stressor is, even like looking at your food, like trying to figure out, like, why am I still having so many problems here? It'll be easier to step into finding, oh, okay, no, I know what to do, or I know who to ask, or I know what step to take next, right? And then that brings us into balance so that we can see, like, maybe the actual stimulus, the trigger is not changing, but our bodies are responding to it differently. And that's what I mean by recovery, right? So the recovery mode is when we're actually in that state where we can then take whatever is being thrown at us, whether it's a stressor or just something in life, and then integrating it in that more positive way where we're able to see, oh, okay, no, I can handle this, or I actually feel good from this. So that's,
I can't speak for how much, like, I feel like there's an overwhelming value in the conversation, because like when I come in to teach, a lot of like the work is very personal, right? We get to know people very well, and sometimes it's like whatever people are bringing into the session and class kind of thing. I'm always surprised at just how wide people's responses are to almost like similar circumstances.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how else to explain that, like something happening in a family change, or I had a client whose husband lost his job recently, but they knew a big change was coming, and it just went it went a different way than they expected. But the response that I kind of experienced through my client was like, I was kind of shocked a little bit. You know what I mean? So just the variety of the high, the low, the middle.
Yeah.
Like how just I think just like how many degrees basically.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you say is like, because you work with a lot of people, so you see things across the board, and a situation happening to one person similar to this person in a different situation,
Just like
just the different responses that people could have based on where they're at in their life, how imbalanced they are, how prepared they were, what tools they have to deal with it. Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah.
that there is, you know, we talk about well, sorry, Ron, you're not in my classes yet, but I hope you will be. I know you are, but when I'm with Susan too, like we talk a good bit about preventing problems. There's a good bit of clients here that are very invested in preventive. And sometimes we start because we start on a health journey because something's not quite right. And either we have a desire for more, or we know we have different capacity.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm just sharing more so than having like a question or point or anything.
Yeah.
But that acknowledgement, you talked a bit, you know, like one of the things that you're bringing up is like, hey, check in.
Yeah.
You know, the listening habit, like one of the, like you can't, I don't know how to progress people in this work until they start to get the idea that checking in is kind of part of what you do every day anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you have to teach yourself how to do that.
Yeah.
Right? The perspective of health isn't what's taught in school. You know what I mean? It's not reflected in our educational process. You have to seek it out, right? So I don't know. It's just I'm just like sharing different things, you know.
Yeah.
Third.
And it's truly like from me and seeing the work with my patients, it even blows my mind how much the act of assessing and noticing does. Like that makes huge changes. Like this is unrelated to like this bouncing back from stress necessarily, but sometimes when you have an injury, your brain's natural response is going to be to not move, right? So if you have an SI joint issue or a low back pain issue, your brain is going to respond by saying, something's going on there, don't move. So you have tension, you have tightness, and you actually have decreased stimulation to a lot of your mover muscles. So your brain is not talking to those muscles. Part of healing is reintroducing that stimulation back to the muscles. We got to make the brain talk to your glutes, your hips, your everything. So especially with walking, like our glutes should be the driver of walking. They should be propelling us forward as opposed to us being like dragged forward by our hips, right? Everything works together, but the glutes are a big driver of that. And activating the glutes is so commonly necessary. Like people's glutes are not firing the way that they should. So there's
plug your blog that's in studio.
I did, yes, I wrote I wrote a blog about that.
2 client resources written about like healthy activation.
Yeah.
And so they're in the resource library.
Yeah, and I'd have to check, but I think I actually have some worksheets in that folder. The folder that I got. So I can check on that. But my point being, the first thing that I tell patients once they're out of a bit of pain and more onto the stage of, hey, we need to get these muscles firing up again, is just pay attention while you walk. Are your glutes firing at all? And sometimes the simple act of paying attention then reminds your brain like, oh, I know how to do this. I can do this. Rather than needing to brute force your way into it. Sometimes that's necessary too, but just simply paying attention makes such a huge, huge difference. But we just have to be in a space where we can slow down, take a step back, and allow ourselves to think about it, allow ourselves to try and stimulate that rest part of our nervous system rather than just like go, rush through this. I need a solution. Taking it step by step makes a huge difference. So,
Mm.
but yeah, so with bouncing back from stress, I think I covered everything that I wanted to. Let me just double check and make sure there was nothing at the end.
Where is the vagus nerve?
The vagus nerve is one of the cranial nerves. And
Okay.
so the cranial nerves, there's 12 of them. They all start in our cranium, right? So
Okay.
they're inside our skull, coming out of different parts of our brain. But the vagus nerve is really a cool one because some of the cranial nerves actually just stay in our cranium. Some of them come out into the face a bit or down the neck. The vagus nerve travels down the neck. And so it's in kind of the throat. That's why gargling, right? Because that's right where your vagus nerve is passing through, or humming or singing. That's literally by vibration stimulating that nerve. And then it goes all the way down through our whole gut, right? So they call it the wandering nerve. That's another nerve for it, or name for it. But that's why it impacts digestion, liver, spleen, everything. It's all of our organs.
He's so proud of us because on Sunday when I led the monthly meetup class, which is like the gyrokinesis, but like the fill-in, the like weekly lessons. It was like a breath practice. So like it was timing the breath to motion, like because we have to practice that,
Yeah,
like, it takes
yeah.
It was all throat. Like
Cool.
I showed everybody the pictures of the throat and trying to get them to keep their tongue up
Yeah.
to like get the movement to go through.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah, and that's why breathing comes into play so much with the vagus nerve, because it's that movement of the diaphragm. It's stimulating the different areas of the vagus nerve in the gut and the torso, through your lungs, but yeah, in the throat especially. And that goes into another tangent that I love talking about, is just like the concept of training the tone of our tongue, of our throat muscles, to keep your tongue on the roof of your mouth, to keep your mouth shut, as even while we're exercising, definitely while we're sleeping. Like, that's just so much, aside from when we're talking, we should really have our mouth shut. Because then that's just like, it's making it so we're filtering our air through the nose. That's what the nose is for. We're filtering our air, we're warming up our air, as opposed to through our mouth, where the pathogens that are in the air are not being filtered. They're just going directly into our lungs. They're not being warmed up. They're just going directly into our lungs. So that's why mouth breathing connects to a lot of different things, whether it's allergies, sinus issues, congestion, all of that. So
That might be your next topic, I guess. I just like stumbled on. That sounds like a whole thing.
yeah, that I love chatting about. It makes a big difference. Even down to the wearable things, like we were talking about heart rate variability. So that one marker of like, how's my body doing in response to stress? Another marker that is usually on those devices is SpO2, which is basically how much oxygen is your blood able to transport to your body. And you have decreased SpO2, which is the bad direction, if you're mouth breathing, compared to if you're able to just nasal breathe, which is the way that we're supposed to. So that's a lot of things. Pretty cool. And there's ways to improve it. So yeah.
And this tongue on the top of on the roof of the mouth, is it the whole tongue? Or-
It's kind of this suctioned outer edge.
Oh.
So you can start with just like the tip of your tongue behind your teeth.
Mhm.
And then imagine like being able to place the outside of your tongue on the roof of your mouth as well. And then you almost have a nice little bowl, right?
yeah,
And then so
okay.
like as you can like suction in, so you're almost pulling that down and making the bowl longer, and then relaxing, and you can press up towards the roof of your mouth. So, and then going back to exercise, especially if you're doing work where you're engaging your core, which should be just about everything, right? If we have our tongue in that position, then you're stabilizing the kind of connections from your pelvic floor all the way up to the roof of your mouth. Because there's actually a bone in our throats called the hyoid that's not connected to any other bone, so it's floating. But if we have our tongue in that position, we've stabilized it, so we're actually more readily able to engage the core. So
Shit, Dr. Hailey.
yeah.
It's like
Do it.
collapsing enough. It's like the whole plate.
Yeah,
Literally.
it's just that everything connects. Yeah, I had a woman come in last week. She could hardly walk, and it was this pelvic floor dysfunction. So we've been just rehabbing that, and it's all the way up and down. So, but now we've really wandered far away from the vagus nerve, the wandering nerve. But do you guys like, what are your thoughts? What's going through your head just on anything that we talked about so far?
I can't wait to try some of these things. I've been working more on my breathing for a while.
Right.
And so I've done the breathing exercise because you do the exercise in
Yeah.
class. But I think I need just to incorporate it
Yeah,
more regularly and more often through the day.
yeah,
You can't just do it once and say, "Oh, okay, did that."
yeah.
So, yeah.
I'll see what I had trouble with when I was teaching, I was leading the practice on Sunday. I can do the maneuver and feel it. I couldn't instruct the lesson and keep doing it.
Mm, yeah,
I can't like I'm in there and then the talking, because I'm like moving and I'm like
Right.
practicing and talking and trying. I was like, okay, this is
that's too much.
I need to break this down.
Well, that's called dual tasking.
I need a lot of practice.
So, just thinking about like your nervous system as a whole more so now, challenging your nervous system, good, right? That helps us age better, that helps our memory, balance, everything, just a challenge to your nervous system. And that can be learning a new craft, learning a new exercise, whatever it is. So for this, so what you're doing, you could do the exercise, you could focus on your breathing, adding in the act of talking, that's dual tasking. So that's trying to take you to the next level, which is just more challenging. So you need to kind of ease your way into it. And again, baby steps with that too, right? You want to do it properly. So just maybe even doing it in your head, like thinking about the words in your head, so then you can more easily, I'm talking obviously not in a class setting, but like for you specifically trying to like improve your ability to do that.
I think it's a good point though, because I guess I mean, again, different personalities respond to challenges differently,
Yeah.
right? Some people get frustrated very easily.
Yeah.
But it's like, they know they can, but they can't yet. And so
Yeah.
because the yet is where you really have to spend the time,
Yeah.
that can be really frustrating, right? But again, just how different people respond.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot to like wake me up. I'm someone who gets frustrated and yet.
Yeah. And that, you saying that made me think of just the comparison to like people are saying like, oh, kids learn much easier than adults do. I read, and I can't remember where I read this. It was an email from something, but they were talking about how, well, kids spend hours or full days on the edge of being able to do something and just keeping over and over, almost getting there, and then they can do it, and then they learn, and then they can walk, and then they can throw something. They're just doing and failing until they're doing it. Whereas adults, we're in that yet. We're like, I can do it, and then we're discouraged, or we are trying to skip steps and just jump to the end. So I thought that was a really interesting perspective of maybe it's more that than
Your whole day's an experiment.
yeah, exactly. Like there's our brains can change even as adults. It's not there's they be different a little bit neurologically, but we still have that ability to. But I do think it's a little bit of that perspective of we just got to try, and we got to be okay with failing, and we got to take it in baby steps. We don't want to skip steps.
That brings up a question about the right and left brain here. So
Yeah.
it mentions putting your music in the left ear. Do you ever put it just in the right ear and let the left brain take over? Or what
Not
happens there?
not to stimulate the vagus nerve. 'Cause-
Okay,
so
it
yeah,
has to do just simply.
exactly. There's different hemisphericities, so like different parts of the brain are doing different things, and we want to get that side going
So
too.
is it one nerve or two nerves? Does it come down on
Two.
both sides?
Yeah, they come down on both sides. Yep. Yeah, and so they come down on both sides. They're going behind the throat there, and then they're going down through the diaphragm into our guts. And then we mentioned the pelvic floor briefly too, and you were talking about, oh, I've been working on my breath work. The breath work there's multiple kinds of breath work that are mentioned in the sheet that I gave you guys. But with all of them, and again, taking this in steps too, but when you're doing the breath work, first just think about doing it, right? Like really trying to like breathe with your stomach. Does everyone know why our stomach moves when we breathe properly?
No.
Yeah, so the diaphragm, I feel like everyone knows that word now, but a lot of people don't know like what that is. It's actually a very large muscle that is across our whole body, right? So it's I explain it as if this was unit 1 and this was unit 2 of an apartment building, and this was the floor and ceiling between them. That's your diaphragm. So it's across your whole body. It's like a slice is the direction of that muscle. When that muscle is contracting, it drops down And that actually pulls the air into our lungs. That's a big reason why we don't need to breathe with our shoulders, right? Like the muscle that's doing it is just dropping down, letting suction and gravity do the work. So then air is pulled into our lungs. The act of it dropping down gives more space to fill our lungs. And then therefore it's also pushing like our organs out, right? So that's why the belly comes out when we breathe in and then relaxes back in as we breathe out. So that's like why we belly breathe. And that's why sometimes we need to unlearn the process of holding our gut in or being really stiff and stressed or stuff like that, right? Yeah. So, oh, I love that.
Do you want to talk a little bit, since you're bringing it up, do you want to talk a little bit about like, I actually do try to do a little bit of acknowledge, like intra-abdominal pressure. Because actually with Ron here today, like I need to talk to guys
Yeah.
quite a bit about making a healthy internal pressure because of the habit of bearing out, like bearing out and down as opposed to inward and through.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, that might connect to the point, the next point that I was going to make too, because with the diaphragm moving down, we actually are also having our pelvic floor move down. Right? So the pelvic floor is the base of our pelvis. It's the layers and layers of muscles just right at the base of our pelvis.
Mhm.
And it actually moves in conjunction with the diaphragm. So when the diaphragm drops down as we breathe in, the pelvic floor is also actually supposed to drop down and then contract as it's coming back up. So there's movement actually at both of those layers. And that is part of what will hold that intra-abdominal pressure constant rather than like bearing down or like needing to activate a different part of our body to get that pressure right. But just speaking of noticing, tuning in, that first step, oftentimes it's really hard to tune into our pelvic floor. We are not very like engaged with it or being able to notice what's going on there. So my challenge to you guys would be, first, try to practice breathing, just like slowly throughout the day, even if it's only for 60 seconds at first. You're already doing that. If that's already easy, then try to do it a couple times throughout the day, right? Add that in as the next step. Then the third step, and try to take these all in steps. Don't try and jump ahead. But the third step would be, okay, can I pay attention and really try and feel my diaphragm as I'm breathing? Like put a hand like kind of over the bottom of your ribs, one hand on your stomach. So you're feeling your stomach move, but you're also trying to see like, can I actually feel my diaphragm moving? And then the step after that would be, all right, now I'm really in tune with my diaphragm. Can I get in tune with my pelvic floor too? Do I feel if that's parallel to my diaphragm or not? And if that's not, sometimes there's extra work that needs to be done. That's what I had to work on with this patient from last week. Her pelvic floor was moving in the opposite direction that it was supposed to, right? And that's not uncommon. A lot of people have pelvic floor dysfunction.
It's a trauma response.
Yeah, it's a trauma response. It can be from injuries. It can be from pubic symphysis dysfunction. There's all sorts of reasons. But so then that takes a little extra therapy, right? But then but it's totally possible to rehabilitate the pelvic floor, make those start moving in time together. And then that also helps with the pressure while you're working out. So it's all in steps though. And you gotta, and just even talking with what you were talking about of like, how do you tune into this intra-abdominal pressure? It's challenging at first, but just trying to notice like, hey, what am I contracting or tightening or loosening to get there? And then as you just pay attention more and more, then you'll actually almost naturally be able to move into properly maintaining that pressure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
With the sniff breath again, is that, are they, it's in through the nose and out through the nose, so is it?
out, you can do either.
Oh,
So
okay.
out can be through the nose or out can be through the mouth. In, definitely through the nose. Out, you can change up, and that can be a practice in tuning into how you feel too, right? So maybe you do it through your nose one day and you tune in, how do I feel? And then another time that you do it, you do it through the mouth and you see, how do I feel? And if there's a difference, then you can decide which one is best for you, but both of them would be healthy.
Hey, today we did it through the mouth, I think.
Yep.
And
I think
they're
that's how I
equal,
did it in my
and I think
example.
they're equal, a little longer, I mean.
The exhale, always longer.
Well, just like
Yeah, we
here.
want nice long exhales. That's going to be really good at stimulating that balance part of your nervous system. And then with that specific type of breath, that physiological breath with the quick outs, you're almost not fully getting an inhale. It might feel like you're not fully inhaling, but that's actually part of what further stimulates your parasympathetics, is not fully inhaling, but having a really nice full exhale.
Oh, it's just one exhale out.
Just Yeah, so,
That wouldn't-
yeah,
too-
quick in, and then a long
okay.
out. Yeah,
I was just thinking that this explains why people are dyspeptic when they don't actually have any problem with reflux per se from a, like a physiologic
Yeah.
problem.
that often goes right into the diaphragm and pelvic floor. Yep. And that's an interesting thing too, because that's also specifically your parasympathetic nervous system. So the valve that's supposed to control it being closed so your stomach acid doesn't go up into your esophagus is fully controlled by your parasympathetic nervous system. So it's not actually about, oh, my stomach's too acidic.
Are you like,
It's my valve isn't closing because there's imbalance in my nervous system, so then I'm having issues.
My husband has good radiation country,
Yeah.
and many years, he just got many.
Oh, yeah. The chiropractic is actually quite good for meniscus.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Send in my information, because, yeah. But yeah, so there's all these things and they all connect. And that's the thing that I like to talk to patients about too, is because sometimes it can feel overwhelming, like, oh, I've got to deal with this and this and this, and I've got so much that I need to work on. But the thing is they all connect. So if you just take one step, you're moving forward in all of them, right? And then it's going to make it easier to keep taking steps further down the line.
I think it's positive to have the arsenal.
Yeah,
The idea of having an arsenal.
yeah.
Oh, right.
It's like a toolbox. Yeah. Yeah. Now, that's what I always like doing with my patients too, is like, I really try and individualize it, because some people get overwhelmed if I even give them just one thing to do, but I like to just trickle those tools in, because then it's tools in your toolbox. There's no shame if you're not actively doing it. You're going through ups and downs of your life and you're figuring out what works for you right now and what that first baby step is. But you've got the tools and you've got the resources to ask about what you need to do with them. So, yeah. Right?
Yeah. Good, you have to foster accountability. You know, you have to, like,
Yeah.
I mean, in the role that we have in the practitioner role.
Yeah, yeah. And accountability, but then even like you said in the email, love, like meeting someone where they're at with that accountability.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I have been talking about it all week when I was kind of, giving everybody, I think a lot of my messaging through is that I just love learning, so I'm really drawn to people who are vibrantly still learning in whatever their practice. Like, I just think that's the coolest thing ever. I think it's a factor into excellence. I don't think you can become excellent unless you're like gonna keep learning and coach actively. Receive coaching into there. So with that said, not everybody is kind of like, I mean, I feel like it's just more human qualities. Really, the compliment to you is, I think you have to be like real, and for me, it's humility. I have to really practice that humility. So I'm an oldest child, and Bossy has served me my whole life. Like, I just go there. I'm sorry, and there it is. And if you love me, you'll tell me when it's enough. You know what I mean? And if I love you, I will catch the signal quickly. Right? But along with that, practitioners and clients opening up more, I think giving more feedback, right? I ask for feedback all the time. Sometimes you can be like, yeah, this is where I am today, wherever that is. But basically, practitioners meeting people where they are. I look for that. I look for that in all the transactions that we do now as business, because I just, there's something to that.
Yeah.
There's something, it's a whole different environment and message. If I was to have someone want to present information, but like not value the human connection. That's the piece for me. Like, you need to have that value.
Yeah.
And I can help you to that if that's not really important to someone yet, but there's only so much teaching of that I can do.
And that's why I think it's important too, is because I think sometimes when you're not able to see like, oh, this is not the step that makes sense for you right now, and you go for it anyways, the person like that I'm talking to might receive that as shame, and shame doesn't get us anywhere, right? So that's why it's just like, it doesn't matter what step you're starting at, and like finding support in whatever step you're choosing, and failure, right? Because failure is actually going to help you grow. But so that's why, again,
Yeah.
it's a really important part of just being like, hey, and that's individually for you guys too, like, take whatever little bit out of this talk and go for it, right? And try not to attach shame if it's easy or hard, or if you failed, or if you need to start somewhere else. Like, do that for yourself too. And that is just a little bit of self-love for you guys.
Be gentle with
Be
yourself.
kind.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, be gentle. Yeah.
Great. Well, that was a fun talk. Do you guys have any other questions or comments or anything?
Well,
You're
thank you.
welcome.
Yes, thank you.
Brain drives the right.
What was that?
How does the left brain drive the right?
Well, it's the left ear that will drive the right brain, right? So they're saying like have the music in your left ear because that particular pathway crosses over to drive the right brain.
Okay.
And I'm looking at the wrong side now.
Yeah, no.
Like left ear drives the right
Okay.
brain.
Oh,
So,
gee, I
yeah.
played violin, I wonder if that. I mean,
Hey, yeah.
in a small way, in a small way.
Definitely though. I mean, that's why some of these things that are just maybe normal parts of some people's lives are just actually good for you. You probably feel great after you play the violin, right?
Yeah.
So like, not only is it because it's vibration, it's also stimulation to that left ear and up into the right. Like there's multiple reasons why things like music or dance or other types of movement are good for us. And that's just part of the puzzle. So, yeah.
You're gonna have to get a raise.
Great. Well, thank you all for coming. And thank you all for tuning in. Yeah.
Thank you. Very good, thank you.
Oh, I wasn't looking over at you. I'm so sorry. Did you
All right.
figure out any
No,
of?
no, I was good. Yeah, if I had questions, I'd yell.
Yeah,
Thank
if you have,
you.
if you're reflecting on anything, send, Leslie has my email, so you can send me an email or you can ask Leslie and she can pass along the questions to me. But
Okay. Yeah, I'll look forward to the PDF, or I'll be in there Tuesday if she wants to leave me a copy. that you
extra
can leave me-
copies,
Okay.
be able to pick that up, and I'll
Yeah.
also send PDF, so you'll have that. So
All right.
Great.
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Bye, everybody.
Good night,
Bye.
Joanne. Good night.
Good night,
Joanne.
Bye. Nice seeing you.
Should I end the Zoom? I think
Yeah.
Kristen left.
Well, thank you all for coming.